Yeah, man. Talk to me, man. Landlords, man.
Yeah,
I'm
why
not
did
talking
this?
about gigs. Some people won't get that joke, but go on.
Yeah, so, bro, why did this come up again? I can't remember. I think I was reading on they're changing the laws, aren't they, to better protect, I think, tenants and landlords. So they're changing the no fault evictions, so they're trying to make it more stringent, so that landlords can't just rock up and say, "Oh, we want you out in a month." But then they're making it easier for landlords to evict tenants that engage in antisocial behavior. Because again, that's a bit of a nightmare if you just got someone moving mad in your block. Actually, I've got a story about that in a sec. And what was the other thing? I think generally there's just the rents are a bit mad in it, but it was making me think about whether landlords are a much needed commodity or part of a problem. I know it's a complicated answer, but yeah, I want to get your thoughts just on landlords in general and um, your experiences with landlords.
Do you know what? I think so. First of all, I think landlords are in a very difficult position sometimes. Do you get what I'm saying? I think sometimes they kind of at times I feel like they are put in a position where they're trying to like we have to remember a landlord is let rent in there. They're trying to help someone else. Do you get what I'm saying? They're trying to help someone else with like um having a roof over their head. Do you get what I'm saying? So
Mm, mm.
it's a thin line because some people take the absolute piss with landlords where they won't pay the rent or they don't pay on time, and then you got to remember that's still mortgage that's got to be paid. Do you get what I'm saying? So normally a landlord will have his own property that he's got there. They might have a portfolio of properties, but say three out of those, say six properties aren't being paid by the tenant. It's still the onus of the landlord to make sure that the mortgage is being paid on them. So I
Mm,
think there's times like there where tenants take the absolute piss. Do you know what I mean? But then
yeah,
you do get those landlords that are just idiots. And I'm quite lucky, touch wood, that I haven't really had any when I was renting. I haven't really had any that's like been idiots because I'll tell you a story in a minute though about letting agents, totally different thing.
mm, mm,
But yeah, landlords, I feel some of them know how to work a system. Like there's times where I watch particular programs and like the landlord's got like a 3 bedroomed house and he's like, it's like 20 people living in it. Do you know what I mean? Because of
mm,
the way that
mm,
it's just set up in the house, or it's like a 5 bedroom house and now it's converted into like 6 apartments. Do you know what I'm saying? So the way
mm.
that some landlords do that, and then they must be like earning like triple what their mortgage is off just a one property because of the way they do it. So, but I'm glad that they're changing certain things. We spoke about this a couple of episodes ago about. I remember I was telling you I was watching a program called Eviction. I think it was called,
Mm, mm.
and that no fault eviction thing's a bit grey area at the moment. And it's a difficult one to kind of try and piece together. But I don't know, man. I think landlords, there's good and bad of everything in it. You're gonna get good or bad people just in life, but the way I see it, to me, even like an Airbnb kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think a landlord's letting someone else into their property. Just respect it and pay your rent on time. But I wanted to ask you a question as well,
Mm.
because obviously rent is now high through the
Insane.
roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Obviously, certain areas, especially like in boroughs in London and even parts of Birmingham now, and Manchester's another one where it's kind of creeping up a little bit. Do you think that the rent is just going up because mortgage rates have changed and mortgages are going up as well? So a landlord ain't going to rent out his property and keep his rent the same if his mortgage has gone up by say £300. He's not going to leave the rent at 650 or whatever. He's going to have to put it
Yeah.
inflation of what his mortgage is. So don't you think it's just a case of that where things are just going up? The mortgage gone up, the rent's going to have to go up too.
I think that's part of it, but it's similar to this whole business with this. I know I'm going off a tangent a little bit, but the supermarket prices.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell you for free, inflation ain't gone up 40% to the extent that milk is 40% like increase. Do you know what I mean? And I think some landlords are taking the opportunity to increase the rent like excessively because I think there's a difference of, well, my mortgage rate has gone up by £100, so your rent is gone up by £100. I think that's fair.
Mm.
Um, if that's the model that you're using, and I guess it depends on the margins, but there's some landlords where the mortgage has gone up by £100, but the rent's gone up £200. And they're saying, "Oh, it's because of other costs," and it's like, yeah, but dickhead, that ain't my problem, innit? Like you got into this, so I don't. That's and you know what? I say that because obviously I've had the worst landlords,
Mm.
and I genuinely do mean the worst landlords, and really, one, two
Man went
really
from
good landlords.
really, I've had a couple, and then went, nah, I've had one.
No, and I really think no, there's probably been two. There's
One
probably been
decent
two.
one.
Yeah, one that was really good, like really good, and one that was
Yeah.
all right, like they were okay. And the one that I'm thinking of, probably the most recent one that I had, she was just calm. She's calm with the rent. Do you know what I mean? Like she just, yeah, she's like, look, it's gone up. This is how much you want to put it up by? And I said, I can't really afford that. She was like, okay, let's keep it the same, but in 6 months we're gonna have to put it up because that's just how much it's gone up for me. I was like, okay, fair enough. And it was very transparent. And they were making a bit of a profit, which is fine. Like I don't have a problem. It's none of my business. Like we've agreed a
Mm.
fee. I've agreed to pay it. Their fees or whatever they've chosen it to be. That's fine. But definitely, and I think it's some of them landlords that's got a portfolio. I'm generalizing massively, but if you're in it from a business perspective, I think a lot of those landlords look at it as a well running, profit operating business. Which, if that's your business, that's your business. But yeah, it's people's lives, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're.
I'm a bit,
Go on.
I'm a bit on the fence though, because I think, like, I get your points, man, 100%. But I do think you gotta remember that's a landlord's income. Like, he's not got like a 9 to 5 or whatever. Like, if you're not paying, I'm not saying you, but there's people out there
Mm,
that don't pay the rent. So, or they
mm,
pay late and then they just move out. Then they, do you know what I mean? They move out well before their tenancies are up. They might, do you know what I mean? So then,
yeah,
and then they might trash the house as well. So then you're talking £5,000 worth of repairs or even more. Do you know what I mean? I might have had like a couple of trees in the attic. Do you know what I mean? Trying to make them, the tenants could have been doing all sorts in there. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah,
then you've got tens of thousands. You might have to rewire the whole electricity because electricity was from next doors, and there's so many things that landlords deal with, I think, as well, and that's their income. So then that 10 grand has to come from somewhere. So it's unfortunate for people like you, or in the past for you, or for me, or for someone who's just going to work, paying the rent. Do you know what I mean? Paying the bills, going to work, paying the rent, paying the bills. People like us, it's harsh because we're the ones that just, like, we get penalized for other people's fuck ups. Do you get what I mean? Whereas, like,
But do you not think though that if it's gonna sound a bit harsh, but if that's your income, so if that's your main income, that's your job. So go and check all that shit out. Like vet your. I know you can't always vet the tenants. Like you never know what someone's gonna do if they're gonna be mad. But then you've got to have some kind of plan. Look, I'm gonna visit every 6 months and follow the
because
contract.
listen,
I'm
I'm,
just.
I'm just saying, I've not been involved in this business at all. I'm going to put that disclaimer out there from now. But I know people, yeah, not me personally, they're not directly linked to me at all. But I've heard stories of people where they rent properties, right? And they don't even live there. People come in and move in. And then the 6 month checkup comes, or whatever, 3 months or
Mm,
a yearly checkup. They go back for the day, make the house look normal. Landlord comes around. Oh yeah, everything's tickety boom. Yeah, everything's nice. No marks anywhere. They leave. Then the other people come back in. So the tenant can do all the checks. The landlord could do all the checks they want. And I think,
mm,
to an extent, you'd probably know if you're a good landlord. You'd know if something mad was going on in your property because there's a signs. You just know what the signs were.
yeah, yeah.
But at the same time as well, are we penalizing the landlord for doing, like? basically he's helping someone get a roof over their head. So all you have to do is pay the man or woman or them, him, they, her, them, the money on time, and it's all plain sailing. But when you don't
But
pay the rent on time and all that, do you get
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It's a bit harsh on the landlord because
I understand that, but I'm conflicted with this idea that they're helping someone put a roof over their head because, again, I've rented from people that have just got one. They've just got one place. They've got their own
yeah,
home,
yeah,
and they've got one other place, and it's just literally because they moved in with someone else, or they got married, or
yeah,
they're keeping it for
different
their kids, or
circumstances.
retire. Yeah, yeah. And I look at it and I
Yeah,
think, okay, fair enough. Like, you're renting it out because you want to keep it, and also you're putting it at a modest price, and those landlords I feel sorry for. Yeah,
mm,
that's calm. But I know other landlords, and a lot of other landlords, they are moving the maddest of madnesses. And
yeah.
the
I'm
way
not
the way I
saying there
see it
isn't them
is
though.
the way I see it is, and I know it helps the economy, and I'm sure, like, if we got an economist on or a housing specialist, they'll be able to explain in more detail why it's good for there to be rented accommodation. But I do feel like a lot of places, maybe I'm talking more for London, but a lot of places are owned by so few people
Mm.
that that's what's causing the issue anyway. You're only helping someone put a roof over their head because you're taking a roof away from someone who then has to rent, which is taking it away from someone who could rent that place. So I feel like a lot of landlords with portfolios are causing the issue in the first place,
No, I hear what you're
in my
saying. I do.
opinion.
No. I hear what
Do
you're
you know what
saying
I mean?
100%. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm kind of on the fence with it because I feel like it's one of them where I'm trying to take myself from the experiences I've had good
Yeah, yeah.
experiences. So I'm trying to take myself, trying to put myself in an experience where I've had a really bad landlord. Do you know what I mean? Or I've had
Mm.
issues with a landlord. I've had issues with letting agents who. Remember, did I ever tell you this? I might not have told you the story on here, but I remember.
Let's open up the letting agent stories.
No, because
let's
they're the
open that. Go
worst. No,
on.
I don't listen. I would much rather look at a letting agent I nearly said a mad word then, but I'd look at them and think, "Now you're an idiot." Before I
Mm.
look at a landlord and go, "You're an idiot," because maybe it's again because of the experiences I've had though. So I'm not saying that one's right, one's wrong, but I remember years ago, and I'm talking, I was 18, 19, so I'm going back years, obviously. And I must have told this story to you. I must have told you off the pod. But so I moved in. I was viewing places, and I went to one particular place, and I thought, yeah, it's all right. I mean, 2 bedrooms, just what I needed,
Mm.
central
Mm.
location, all of that stuff. But when I went in there, um, there was someone obviously still living there, from what
Mm.
I thought. So when sometimes you go somewhere, someone's still there. It's an overlap in
Mm. Yeah,
the
yeah.
tenancy, so they're still there. You go and view before they move out. So I thought, okay, cool. So I said to the letting agent guy, I said, oh, so once I've paid my deposit, obviously get professional cleaners in, all of that stuff, yeah. Oh yeah, no worries, calm, yeah, no worries. So so I pay my deposit, pay my fees and all that. Day comes with me moving in. I'm in the letting agents. I'm paying my deposit, waiting for my keys,
Mm.
get my keys.
Mm.
The letting agents was so because it was so central. Like, it was like a 2 minute walk. So I could come from
Mm.
the letting agents, walk across the road, go under the
Mm.
underpass thing, and I'm there. Open the door, and as soon as I opened the door, this smell hit me, and I was like, "Bro, what is that smell?" It was the same smell that I smelt when I came to view it last time. Do you know what I'm saying? It was not like a shit smell. It's just like
No, but it's
a smell, like
a
someone's
musk.
home smell. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that was their
yeah,
home smell. So I was like, "Bro,
yeah.
it still smells the same." Like, so I walk in, the same bowl of moldy cereal that had been sat there on the side when I went to see it was still sat there. Everything was the same. Like literally everything was the same. The bed was not made
Mm.
anything. So, and this was on like a Saturday, I remember, and the letting agents only done half a day Saturday. So I literally was there like 12 o'clock. So by the time they come, so I had to go in a hotel. So the day I got there, I had to go and check into a hotel the Saturday night,
Yeah.
stay there Sunday, and wait for them to open Monday. Then they said, oh yeah, no, we'll get someone round to clean it. Because they never did. I had to get my own professional cleaner to clean up, right? That should have been the first red flag. But bearing in mind, I'm young and I've also just
Mm.
signed I think it's like a 12-month tenancy or something
Yeah,
like that at
yeah.
that time. So I couldn't, then times I'm a bit dumb. So I just thought, right, I'm locked in for 12 months. Do you know what I mean?
No
They've got my
choice.
money.
Yeah, yeah.
Cut a long story short, I moved because I couldn't stand it there because it was just annoying anyway in
Mm.
the end. So I moved out earlier I shouldn't even be saying this on here. But I got someone else to sublet the thing for 6 months in it, so they moved in and whatever. And it's so they were still paying the rent.
You found a solution.
Yeah, come on. So I moved out there 6 months. I brought someone else in. They were. I think I see. No, I'm not gonna say that bit. Don't say no more. Anyway, they moved in, and then so then they move out. So there's no problem with the rent. They've been paying it. I've been making sure they've been giving the money to me to pay the landlord. You know what I mean, or the letting agent, because it was going through them. So then I've moved out now. This is like 6 months later. Get a phone call from the landlord directly. Yeah. And he was calm. Like I remember I met him once when I first got there, because I rang him to explain what was going on in his property, and they're just basically taking a piss out of him because he's paying them to clean his apartment. Do you get what I'm saying? So he rings me and goes, "You do realize you owe me 9 months worth of rent?" So I'm like, "Are you mad? How do I owe you 9 months of rent?" So he's going, "No, I haven't received any rent from you for 9 months. I'm going to take you to court, all of this stuff." I was like, "Listen, big man, Rasta man as well." So I thought, let me just try and reason with you a little bit, right? So I was like, "Listen, big man," I said, "I'm going to go to Lloyd's TSB," because it was Lloyd's TSB at the time. "I'm going to print off my bank statements. I'm going to show you that the money was going to these lot all the time that I was there." So thank God I was paying through my bank, because that was the only source of, because my deposit I paid cash. I remember that, and they gave me a receipt for it. And I'm sure they said you can either come in and pay it at the thing, which I thought, right, that's a bit mad. Like paying like that much cash to you every month. No. We'll do it through a nice transaction. So I sent them all to him, just to the landlord. I said, "Listen, it's not me you got to take to court. You got to take
the agent.
City Residential. I'm not even bothered about saying their name. You got to take them to court, because they're the ones who got your money." Because he was like, "You're not getting your deposit back." These times I hadn't got my deposit back still. You know, that the scheme that it goes in. So I hadn't got that back. So that's why I was calling him. He's like, "I'm taking your deposit because you owe me money more than the deposit." I was like, no. Give me the deposit back. There's the bank statements. But do you see what I'm saying? So he's saying, I'm having to foot the bill for the mortgage thing when I've not received the money from you. And I'm like, "But you have. They just haven't passed it on to you." So cut a long story short, I was like, "Nah, this is mad." So that's why I think letting agents for me sometimes are the worst people, because they charge you. They charge you to print paper.
Oh, I know they
fees.
can't really do it anymore. But
Back then though,
I
they could
remember
charge
paying
like £500 for a printout of a paper to sign.
I think like my fees was like £800 for one of the things.
Because all they're doing is printing the paper, typing a letter, printing the paper. They don't do reference checks. They say, "Oh, we're gonna do reference." They don't do them. They don't. And I know that for a fact. Some of them don't do them. They just want the information on the system. They don't do it. And they charge, man, like you said, 800, a grand, I think sometimes. Mad. But what do you think needs to change? Because obviously, like with landlords, and I do get your point that sometimes they're trying to make money off something, but do you think that's a bad thing then, that they're trying to use the property as like a springboard, as like an investment thing for them? And it's and the only person that's suffering from that is the tenant, effectively.
I need to read up on economics, but my personal opinion is people that hoard properties and rent them out, and I can't even say a minority of them, a portion of them. I don't know how big that is. They're the ones that fuck it up for everybody trying to get on the ladder, because there's not enough properties available. So I feel like there needs to be regulation around it. It's complicated. The biggest issue is all them fancy buildings that they tend to build, so in London in particular, but other places, they're using for money laundering, all the other bullshit that they use it for, that eat up. And we know it anyway. I'm just saying it because we know it happens. Like whatever. But all them places that are empty, that are used for money laundering, that are taking up space where they could build things, that needs to be regulated. But that will never happen, because that's all obviously government's all involved in that and all of that stuff. And that's what causes the issue then for the sort of maybe mid-range landlords who were trying to then capitalize on the lack of space. So I feel like there should be a cap to how much you can charge in relation to your mortgage and make a profit on. Personally, I feel like that would help, because if you're in it to help people get housing and you want to make some money, in my opinion, that should be fine. Or give them more tax relief, but they to subsidize things like housing benefits, for example. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I personally think there should be a cap on how many places you can buy and rent out. Because when you're looking at
I don't
20,
know, man.
I know it sounds mad, but if
Where do
someone's
we
got
stop the
20,
line with that though? Because imagine you're a multi-millionaire. I don't like. Where do you stop the line? Because
but
then
you're probably not even paying taxes, so you're not really helping the economy anyway.
I don't
Do you know
know,
what I
man.
mean?
I just
Because
think it's a
I just personally think there's a lot of people. You've got people that are in it and they're doing it astutely and it's calm, and there's a lot of people who, just because of the generation that they were born in, I
mm,
think it's the baby boomers. I want to say, not blaming all of them, but there's a few of them where it's just easy to get a house, so they just got bare
yeah.
houses, and then it became their primary job. And then they're saying, "Oh yeah, like, well, it's the market rate or this, that, and other." And it's like, no, fuck off. Like, you've got a house for easy. You've got no mortgage, and you're charging, man. And then you're using inflation as an excuse to put money up.
No, I hear what you're saying, man.
Do you know what
I
I mean?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's why I'm kind of on the fence with it because it's a thin line, is it? I think there's some landlords that are just doing it for the sake of they want to, like you said, they've got another property that they just want to rent out. They don't want to like sell their other property.
yeah,
And there are other ends of it where there's people out there that are using the inflation excuse or reason as to why they're bumping up people's rent by almost triple sometimes. Do you know what I
crazy
mean?
amounts. Yeah,
And then I think as well that leads on to the mental health of people, which is what that episode, that program that I was watching, kind of linked into a little bit about, like just the stress and the mental health, the anxiety of people that are having. There's a woman on that program, and she's literally fighting the case to say that you can't put my rent up in the space of 12 months, twice in the space of 12
yeah,
months.
yeah. That's
So
it.
she
Yeah,
fights that. She fights it, wins it, but then I think they say to her, but we're going to review it again in 6 months or yeah,
yeah,
because they put it
yeah,
up like middle of the tenancy, and then they were going to do it again, and she's like, no, you can't do that. So then
yeah.
she was
That's
like,
right.
they wrote back to her and said, no, we're going to review it at like the 12 months of your tenancy, and then we're going to basically bump it up then again. So she was like, at least I've got myself covered for the
It's a bit
next
of
couple of
buffer in it.
months,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm still fucked because I know in a couple of months I've got to find somewhere and I can't afford that. So there's a lot of that that links into like anxiety, depression as well,
yeah.
like
hundred
all these.
percent.
Do you know what I mean? It links into a lot
Yeah,
of that, and I
stress,
think
all of that.
yeah, and I think that's a big worry for people in today's world. It's not easy to get on the property ladder in terms of mortgages, and also it's not easy just to rent. Like in rent,
It's
when I
hard.
say rent, I'm not talking about like paying the rent. I'm talking about actually just getting somewhere that is not suitable. You can't really be picking and choosing when you're renting, but you can, because you don't want to live like somewhere that you don't want to live in, or you got to live like
Yeah.
an hour and a half away from work or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? So it
Mm.
has to work for you, and there isn't that many properties that if I had to go and find somewhere to rent now, especially in Liverpool, that I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to live there. Nine
Mm.
times out of 10, I'm gonna go into Central, and if I'm
Yeah.
looking at Central, I'm talking 1,800 a month, probably around that for what I'd want. Do you get what I'm
No, no,
saying?
for real. And I want to come on to tenants in a moment very briefly, but the irony is, yeah, a lot of people are renting for 2 or 3 years, yeah. Because remember,
Mm.
renting really ideally should be a short-term thing. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there that would want to buy, but end up just renting a place for 2, 3, 4 years because they can't get on a ladder,
Mm.
which is dumb. Not the people that are renting, but it's dumb that the system's working in that way, because you should be able to just fucking buy those places and then sell them, and everybody builds up their wealth. And then again, you don't really have. I can't say you don't have recessions and inflation, but surely if everybody is getting a portion of that pie, no one's had people having less issues with rent because they're forcing everybody to rent, including people that want to buy. Yeah, it's mad. But anyway, that's just my take on the market and landlords. But tenants aren't blameless in this as well. And it's two types of tenants here that cause the issues. One is you've already mentioned, them dickheads that go and do the stupidest of madnesses in
Yep.
places for no reason, just because they're bad. Just because
Mm.
they ain't got no common sense. So they make it mad. Even like one of the places I rent, I'll go in there, a couple places, people just be doing the maddest of madnesses.
Mm.
And landlords come around every month saying, "Oh, is everything all right?" And then you talk to other people in the block and like, "Oh yeah, the person that lived before you, yeah, it was they were moving mad." So those people, and people that should know better, not because some people, there's other stuff going on. The other ones, this is more of a London thing, but I'm sure it's going to come to other places like Manchester, probably Liverpool. The gentrifiers, those dickheads as
Yeah.
well. They
Yeah. Yeah.
come with they got bare money, this competitive, places 600 to rent a room or flat, whatever it might be at that time. Oh, I'll pay 800. Let's blow everybody out the water. Now those places are £800.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's true.
those are the
It's
two
true,
people. So
man.
I'm not putting it at the landlord's feet. I blame those two types of tenant for facilitating
Mm.
people to be able to put prices up because it just kills everybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thoughts on who's
I
to
got
blame.
one more
And
thing to ask you though,
yeah, go on.
because obviously I think a couple of weeks ago they reintroduced 100% mortgages. You just said then before about renting's technically like it should be a short-term thing for a couple of years, and then people kind of fall into the trap of just renting, or they just can't get onto the ladder.
Mm,
Do you think 100% mortgage, and take yourself away from the
yeah,
prices down south, maybe put
yeah,
yourself in maybe Birmingham, maybe that's probably a bad example, but somewhere, say Milton Keynes.
yeah,
That's probably not even in fact, that's even a worse comparison, because I bet they bumped up the prices there because it's not even that far from London. You know what I'm talking about though?
yeah.
Somewhere up north. Let's just say somewhere up
Certain
north.
places, yeah.
Let's say we're
Let's go
heading
for
towards
Blackpool.
north. There we go. Blackpool,
Yeah,
right? So do you
yeah.
think 100% mortgages are beneficial depending on where you are? Because obviously you're getting 100% of the mortgage off the lender. So no deposit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of, I think it works in some ways for some people, dependent on the value of the house that you're trying to buy. If you're
Yeah,
trying to buy a 300 grand house, 400 grand house, 500 grand house, it ain't for you.
yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you ain't seeing the benefits of that mortgage, that the house, when you're gonna die before you pay off the mortgage. Sorry
Mm,
to put the spoiler out there for you, but if it's like a house and there are houses, there's a couple of houses that you can buy for like 100 grand, 90 grand, 80 grand, if you really wanted to, little investment
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Do you think that's beneficial? Because technically, you
I've
could probably, if you got a dual income, you could probably
yeah,
pay that off.
yeah. So the key is in the bit that you mentioned about investment and making a decision. So I think, well, I know quite often people ignore, you think of the word mortgage, but forget a mortgage is just a loan. And I think they
Yeah.
forget that that's what it actually is. So, and I link that 100% mortgage with like a student loan. So, student loan,
Yeah.
it's dumb and irresponsible to give a 17-year-old the opportunity to sign up to a student loan, not for the 17-year-old, but as a society, because what the fuck does a 17-year-old know about opening up what is now 100 grand loan? It's just a tax
Mm.
for the rest of your life. Yeah. It's a smart decision to get a student loan and go and study if it's an investment, or you want to make the most of it and you're fully aware of that. It's the same with a
Mm.
100% mortgage. So if you're taking it out, I don't think you should have to come up with a proposal, because that would exclude the people that probably need it most. But I feel like you should have some kind of support where someone is there alongside you saying, so if you're taking this out, you can go into negative equity. You might end up earn money on that motherfucker. So what
Mm.
are you planning to do if that happens, or to boost the value of the property to safeguard yourself? And here's some help to do that. So it is a
Mm.
good idea for that. But if you're just handing them out, as we say, willy nilly to anybody, and they don't really realize, one, it's not a mortgage, it's a mortgage, but it's a loan. That's what it is. It's 180,000 loan that you've got to pay back with mad interest. That's what it is.
Mm.
So if they don't understand, yeah, that not only could you end up selling that, but you could end up owing 5, 6, 7, 8 grand when you're desperate to sell because something's happened. You got ill, or family member got ill, or I don't know, like you have
Mm.
kids and you have to move or whatever. Then yeah, it's a bit mad. So in theory, it's a good idea, but it really depends on who it goes to, and hopefully it helps the people that need it most, and the education for the people that need it most that are getting it is provided.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that's my
it's true.
complicated answer.
No, it's true. I agree with you. I think it's one of those things where I kind of setting people up to fail a little bit,
Mm,
because I was reading into them a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and like even the checks don't sound like the checks before the mortgage is given to you doesn't even sound that good. All you need really is a solid income. I think you need to be able to show that you've paid your rent for 12 months, like without any issues. I think they do like, obviously the usual credit checks and all that stuff, but it's not as vigorous or as aggressive as a proper mortgage. But you know what I mean? The due diligence that they do in a mortgage where you got to make sure that, you know, you got 3 years worth of P60s or whatever they're called. Do you know what I mean? All of those things. They don't really do that because I think what they see is what you just said. It's more, we're going to sugarcoat this as a mortgage, but it's actually a loan. And all mortgages are like that. But I feel like this one, because they're giving you the full amount, and the APR, the interest rates on them is much higher. I was reading as well. Because obviously
do you know what they are? Because they must be mad.
I can't remember. I did read it.
Probably like 6 or 7% or something.
I think it was
like that.
just under 6. I'm going to say like 5 point something percent. And you got to think anything can happen to you. It's almost like the shared ownership thing. Like I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but I was thinking, because you never really own that property, you still have to pay rent on top of the mortgage that you get. So say you got 25% shares into this property, you still got to pay rent, the other half. And then you might not be able to, at what point, unless you either come into money or you get, like, your job allows you to, you know, escalate up the ladder quite quick. At what point are you going to be able to buy more shares? When do you get to 50%, 75% and then own the whole house? Probably never. Yeah. So I just think those kind of things for me, I see why people rent, I suppose what I'm saying. I see why people would rather just rent to an extent, because as much as it's never your property, it comes with a lot of, like, imagine 300 grand mortgage, 100% taken from the lender to give to you around your neck for the next 30 odd years or 35 years. I wouldn't sleep. I don't think I'd even sleep. I'd be working round the clock.
It's
crazy, man.
Yeah,
crazy times.
It's
man.
good.
But,
It's good that they've got options. And I'll never criticize anyone for taking any of them options, but I feel like the government often try and solve an issue with an even stupider idea. This kind of remind me of like Peep Show sometimes. There's an issue and then they do the exact thing that you're thinking, the way that you're applying that doesn't really make sense to the issue that's going on. But it remains to be seen anyway. Hopefully it'll work for people.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree. You brought up, or I brought up, or one of us brought up the barbers, man, with Jesse's story. That story, the legendary story. But I was telling you offline yesterday about the barbers and being in there. To be fair, my barber's is calm, actually. I say my barber, he's not my barber because I ain't got no hair in it. But like for my son, like his barber is like it's never really busy in there, which is, yesterday surprised me because I think what happened basically, either one of his brethrens come in, you know, like the regulars that they come in and say, just bust me a little trim now. So he come in and I think he took my 5 o'clock slot. So I had to wait for him to be done to get son's haircut. You get what I'm saying? And then, but then it took me back. Remember I was telling you, it took me back to that time when, shout out Delray. I don't even know if he's still with us because he was quite old then. But cause this guy, this barber, you could turn up at 6 a.m. and he would probably turn up at 10. On some Saturdays, he'd turn up at 8:30. You just didn't know. Like, it was a lottery. You had to be there like 6 a.m, 7 o'clock in the morning, just in case he decided to start opening and cutting hair at like 7:15. There was some days you'd be sat outside the barbers for 2 hours and the place would lock off, or it doesn't open at all. It was just pot luck. He'd come in and he'd sit down with a paper, breakfast first. So even if you're the first one, even if you're the first man into the barbers, you still got to wait like about 40 minutes, an hour, because he's got to eat his breakfast and he's got to pick out all his horses that he's going to put on, all his bets and that, because the bookies was down the street. It'd send you, the first person, to go and do it. Do you get what I'm saying? Send you to the shop, you're there to get your trim, but you go and running errands. So then you go and do that. Someone else is in the chair now, innit? Because you missed your spot. So then he goes, "No, man, I'm going to do you next." And man, you're next, man. You're next. And then one of his next brethren comes in. "Boss, man, look how trim now." So you gotta wait again now because bedroom there, isn't it? So you gotta wait again. So then lunch. So then lunch, he send someone else. If you get there about 11, he sends you to the shop, send you to Greg's. Nah, man, he used to go to little Greg's, man.
Greg's?
But to be fair, I used to come if I hadn't had my haircut like one day and I was passing by. Normally, I'd have like a couple of patties or something. Do you know what I mean? I just walk in and pass on the patties and that because just because we were like calm like that or whatever. But yeah, this one time I got there at like about 6 or 7. It was quite late. I thought, let me just go late. Yeah, because I thought it was like a Thursday. It was like a random day, like a Wednesday. I thought I'll catch him late. He might just have 1 or 2 people in there. Nah, man, it was busy. I can't remember why it was busy. I can't remember what was going on. And I remember being in this barber's. It was like 10:30, and I thought, you know, you're committed to something. Now I'm not walking out of here to get a trim.
Too late. You waited too long.
Yeah. I'm not. I can't leave now. I'm past that point of like coming back the next day. I'm sitting here. The amount of time it took this man, because he just like he'd piss around, man. Like, he'd cut someone's hair, start pissing around, talking, debating, arguing, and then go back to cutting someone's hair again. So at these times it's like 11 o'clock. My mum's ringing me thinking, where are you? You went to get your hair cut like 5, 6, 7 hours ago and you're still not back. I had to get a taxi home. Because I was in the chair at like 11:45. 11:45 these times I'm in the barber still getting my hair cut. Bus, it's not like London where you get like night bus running throughout the night. Last bus is at like
knock off.
Yeah, like 12 or something. Yeah, something stupid like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh fuck, man. So I had to get a taxi. I don't think I went back to him. I went back to another man called Milton. He was a good little barber as well. But yeah, shout out Delroy, man, because it was funny. Apart from the one time I was there early, man had a rat in his bin, cuz. You know them establishments. You know what the barber thing's like though. It's just like a bit. It's always in like a mad location, isn't it? Just like the one in Birmingham's either in Handsworth or Aston or somewhere like that. Spark Hill. I think Delroy was in Spark Hill actually. And yeah, he went in. He said, "Oh, I want a ras." I just see him coming. Got the broom. He's just beating the thing, in the bin, and then he somehow got it into the bin. And he said, "Get out!" I said, "Get that ras, get out, my way." And then he took the bin out. Cause I was shook as well. Cause me and rats don't get along, innit? So I had to sit there. Cause the whole time I'm on edge. I'm on edge here thinking, no, because you know what they say as well. If there's one rat, there's normally like a couple. Do you know what I mean? There's normally a couple of them. But yeah, man, that was one of the maddest. That's why I got no hair now. Just little big ting, man. Just raising the ting off myself. You must have a story like that though.
No, but listen, hold on. I need to digest.
Listen,
I need to digest what you just said. Oh my gosh.
Shout out Delroy, man. He was funny, man. He was funny. Them barber days were the one, man. I do miss the barber banter.
Yeah, no, I do as well. You know the time when you got the taxi? Did you at least get a decent trim?
Yeah, you used to do me proper. Fire, yeah, no, I used to do. Yeah, you know them ones where you walk out and you can.
Innit?
Yeah. I couldn't see it because it's pitch black. You get me? But when I got home the next day, I was like, yeah,
you do it.
Cool, man. But yeah, shout out Delroy, man. I think when you were a kid, you used to go to barbers. You used to know you were there for a while, innit? You didn't expect to be in and out. That was like a rare thing for you to get in the seat and be out within like the hour. So you kind of knew you was going to be there for a while, but. Yeah, man, he used to take the piss. Like, he'd sit down and just listen to music in there for an hour. Got one man in the chair, just sat there, half haircut. He'd just sit there and start chatting to someone like this. And do you know what I mean? Or the mum, because the mum used to drop you off and then go about her business and come back. And then she'd kick off with him like, "Oh, you ain't got his haircut yet, what's going on?" And then it kicks off, then that kicks off something else, then and then there's another debate, and then, long.
But do you think, because I'm going to talk about some of my stories another time, but do you think it's a good thing in terms of like culture-wise? Because I think it's quite a Western thing, isn't it, to just be in a rush and you go and just get the thing done and you bounce. But actually, I know it's annoying, but just being in that community.
Nah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I generally loved it because you learn. Not only do you like go there just for the passa and all the madness that happens at them, but sometimes you learn things there. Like, as mad as that sounds, like there's things that I remember. I can't remember them now, but they used to talk about things that I just wouldn't have known about. like sort of Jamaican heritage or whatever. And you'd hear conversations going on in there, you know, this man was this back in this day and da 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 da. So you should bring your ears up and just listen.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, man, it was just like almost like a family environment. Do you know what I mean? So like, it was a nice environment, man. But what about you? What you think it's good to have that?
Yeah, I think so. I was quite shy in my barbers for time, so I'll just go. I'll be one of them guys that just sitting, just quiet, not saying anything.
Yeah.
just like overwhelmed by everything going on, and yeah, it'd be funny. Obviously, you always get the football talk, but then yeah, just loads of things. You get like the debates. Obviously, certain man will try to come and it's like, oh yeah, I was here an hour ago, and all of that. Because I think
Yeah.
they got that ticket system, or they did anyway. Obviously, I ain't been barbers for about almost 3.5 years, so they had that, and yeah, it was quite good, and they'd look after you. But I do think, as annoying as it was, and as much as it would wipe a big chunk of your day out, just being in that atmosphere where, depending on the barbers you went to, but my barbers was calm. You just feel safe, and yeah, you just like learn a lot of things, and you hear things, and it was nice. It was nice. But I know it's changed now, because even it might have even been Jesse that was saying it, but like you have to book your appointment, or you saying it as well.
Yeah,
You
that's
book
what
your
you do.
appointment
Yeah,
now.
you have to book it, man. Yeah,
Yeah. So
you
I'm
have to
not. It's
book the
something
slot, man.
something that I have to get used to. 'Cause obviously, this ain't gonna last forever. So yeah, it's something that
Nah,
I'm gonna
it's
have
funny,
to
man.
figure it out. But no,
But as
I enjoyed it. The breakfast thing though is funny, because yeah, you just be there and you're thinking, oh, I've been here for an hour already. They're like, yo, little
yeah,
man, can you just
yeah,
go
just
along
dash
the
you the
shop for
change in
me?
it. Yeah. You can't say
Asking
no
to
as well.
no, then you go to like 3 different shops just to get like super malt or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's random porridge
Yeah,
or
man.
whatever it is. But yeah,
Funny, man. We have to continue that next week, man, because I think
yeah,
I know
100.
there's funny. I know you got a funny story. You just don't want to release it yet. You want to bust man next week for the funny story. So
Yeah, I
we
gotta
have
wait.
to,
I gotta wait.
yeah, man. But
But yeah,
what episode this? I always ask you this. Episode 9.
I feel this is
Episode
10, no?
9. Oh, is
Yeah,
this
this is
10
10.
with double
Yeah, this is
figures?
10.
Oh,
Yeah, with
Russ.
double figures
Okay.
now.
Blood fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, episode
breach the
10.
perimeter.
Yeah, man, we're
Yeah,
creeping up, man. But yeah, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. I think I said last week or the week before, I'm seeing a lot of people, the views are going up slightly, but the subscribers aren't. So it tells me that people are watching the videos but not hitting that subscribe button. So please do that. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other streaming platforms, you can find us on there as well. Got the Instagram up and running now, Twitter. So make sure you go and give those a follow as well, man. We'll be back next week. Well, another episode. Let us know your thoughts about this one as well. Let us know your barber stories. Let us know about landlords. All of that stuff, man. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week.
peace.